illusions of someday, cast in the golden light. No dress rehearsal. This is our life. And that's where the hornets start.
Hi, everybody. Just load up the chat here. How are you guys?
Yes, let us know in the chat how you're doing today. If you have any plans for the weekend.
Open up this live chat. Alrighty. We are live.
We are.
Alright. So welcome. If you have tuned into our streams before, welcome back. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. Let's start by just introducing ourselves again so you know who we are. My name is Michelle Lincoln. I am a fourth health promotion student here at Dal. I am from Halifax, born and raised, but my family's from the Caribbean. Me llamo Michelle, soy canadiense y estudio la promoción de la salud.
Hello everyone, my name is Lilian. I come from China. 我的中文名字叫刘洋. It's going to be my second year in Commerce Code program.
Hi everyone, I'm Lexi. I'm going into my third year studying political science and philosophy. And I'm from Mississauga, which is a small suburb outside of Toronto. And my parents are Taiwanese immigrants. 我的中文名字是郭颖颖.
Excellent.
So we'll just let you know that Dalhousie actually sits on ancestry unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq.
And before we get started, we wanted to check in with you guys. Where are you guys tuning in from today? Let us know in the chat.
Yeah.
Love to see where everyone's from.
Okay. All right, so today we're going to be covering a lot of really important information, especially right now because course registration is live. So we're going to be telling you a bit about what your classes are going to be like, what to expect out of professors, TAs, what kind of support systems we have at Dal, both for academics and for you personally. And also we're going to be talking about societies, which I know a lot of you have been asking about in the Facebook chat, so hopefully we'll answer some of your questions now.
Yeah, really important stream today. Hope you guys find it helpful. And stay tuned until the end because we're going to be talking with a guest from the Bisset Student Success Centre and we're going to be giving away some free swag. So stay tuned.
All right. So yes, as I said, classes, course registration is live now. So we want to know if you guys have started registering because that's something that you probably want to do.
Yeah.
Or have you even gotten in to maybe look at the academic timetable, see what classes you're interested in? Have you checked out your own faculty page to see what classes are required for your program? All things that you could be doing now.
Yeah, exactly. I know the process seems really daunting, but once you break it up into steps, hopefully you'll find it a little bit easier. So we're going to talk about some different aspects of classes now. In terms of dress code, it's pretty casual when you go to class during your day-to-day lectures. Most people will wear jeans like I'm wearing and a t-shirt in the fall. And when it gets colder, people will usually wear warmer things like a sweater and boots and things like that. In terms of formal presentations, people will usually dress like business casual, more like a suit and tie, depending on the presentation. So that's just something to be aware of. And as long as you're being respectful of those around you, then you can pretty much wear whatever you like. What do you guys like to wear?
Well, I would say there's generally two looks that I go for. Either I just rolled out of bed or I put half an hour into this outfit.
No in between.
No, I don't think there is.
It's the same. I probably just like something to keep me warm. Something I like from China and some school shirts.
All right, cool. Well,
yeah, and another thing to keep in mind when it comes to clothes is certain classes, say you're doing a class that has labs or you're going out to do field work, whatever that may be, There might be special dress codes on that. So maybe it's closed-toed shoes or you need a lab coat. So those are also kind of requirements that your prof will definitely tell you about. So
Yeah, and it would be in the syllabus too.
yeah, it would be in the syllabus.
And if you will have lots of presentations, so if you want to find a job, it would be nice to bring some business casual, business formal, like a suit or dresses.
Yeah, so let's get into the kind of different structure of classes you can have. You can have lectures, which are basically the instructor or prof talking about the material. And you can have 3 different kinds of structures. One can be a 3-hour-long lecture a week. The other can be 2 75-minute classes. And then the other 3 would be 3 classes, and each of them would last about 50 minutes. So yeah, it really depends on the program you're in.
Yeah, so along with those, so your lectures, you'll also have, sometimes depending on what your program is, you'll have like labs and tutorials. So I'll talk a bit about tutorials just because I'm in the Faculty of Arts, so I don't really have labs ever. So what tutorials usually are is it's usually a smaller class. So say your regular class is probably a lot bigger, say 100 people. Once you go into your tutorials, it'll be a lot less. It's like a standard high school classroom size, maybe no more than 30 people. So it's much more interactive. Your TA, your teaching assistant, is there to kind of answer any questions. Maybe they'll go through an activity based on the lecture material. So it's kind of just like a supplemental class to like go over and review the material. And also in tutorials, you have the chance to ask more detailed questions, and they can spend longer on giving you a good full answer.
Yeah, and since the TAs might be just the student, go to school a couple of years earlier than you, they might have lots of study tips for you, and you can send them emails if you have something unclear. It will be a good resources.
Yeah, so we'll talk about teaching assistants in just a little bit. So that's what they are. I'll talk about labs because I've done a little bit as a psych student. For labs, it's usually the same thing as a tutorial. So you'll go to your lecture at the regular schedule, depending on what program you're in, and then you'll also have to register for a lab section. And what that lab section is meant to do is to teach you a little bit more about what you learned in class and help you apply that knowledge. So you'll usually have like an assignment or some sort of activity that you do in lab, and then you usually have to hand in that assignment the next day you have lab. And that can be during the same day as your lecture, or it can be another day. You have a little bit more flexibility, but you do have to make sure that you register for those lab sections and adhere to the requirements that they have.
Yeah, and also just going back on class structure a little bit more. So when you're looking, this information will kind of help you like orient yourself when you're looking at the academic timetable. So what Michelle was saying about there being different like lengths of classes. Mm-hmm. So how that usually ends up working out is classes that you have 3 times a week will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, an hour each, like Michelle said. And 2 times a week classes are usually Tuesday, Thursday. So how that ends up mapping out is you usually have the same schedule Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the same schedule Tuesday, Thursday. Or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, same schedule. Tuesday, Thursday, same schedule. Okay, apparently I don't know my days of the week.
But yeah, that's all we wanted to talk about in terms of class structure. And now we want to move on to talking about instructors and TAs, because we said we'd elaborate on that a little bit. So instructors, or profs, you'll hear us call them, are the people who typically lead the class discussions and lectures. And they will talk to you about the material. They'll teach you things that are a little bit outside the textbook, or they'll go back to the textbook a little bit. And they're typically experts in this area. Not always, but they can be. Instructors can be at the university full-time or part-time. So they'll let you know their availability to talk with you outside of class at the start of term. Profs, on the other hand, are usually full-time, and they usually have a PhD. So that means that they've been involved in more research projects, and that they're usually involved in current research at the university. So if you're interested in university and doing research affiliated with the university, then profs are a great resource to talk to.
And the TAs, they are teaching assistant. It's like undergraduate student or undergraduate students who can get at least an A- in that course. So whenever you have a question, you can just go for them, send them email, book an appointment. They will try to help you as much as they can. Since profs and the instructors don't have that much time, and you don't want to spend lots of time waiting outside of their office, so go for TAs.
Yeah, so a bit more about that. So pretty much in terms of contacting profs versus TAs, it's like a bit of a different process. So usually how it works with profs is they have scheduled office hours, maybe once or twice a week, and that'll be maybe an hour long. So when you're going in to talk to your prof, oftentimes maybe there's other people also waiting to talk to them. They may be a little bit busier and they're available less often. That is opposed to your TA, who is probably also a student and available much more often. So you're able to email them, maybe schedule in a time that works for both of you. And as Lillian was saying, your TA really is a great resource. They can help you with anything from just going over the course material, answering any questions you might have, not only about lectures, but also about assignments. They can go through assignments with you and write out a plan for you to approach it. So it's super helpful. Like when I was in first year, I was doing my first ever philosophy class. I was pretty scared because I wasn't sure about how the standards for essays would be when it comes to philosophy. It was new material. So I would pretty much meet up with my TA once every week or once every 2 weeks, and we would just kind of talk about the material, some of my thoughts about it, and that was kind of really helpful for me.
Yeah, TAs can be really helpful because at the end of the day, they are going to be the ones who are going to be marking your assignments, or at least the majority of them. Mm-hmm. So it's really good to touch base with them on a regular basis. And I know that I'm in a similar position as you, Lexi. When I first came to health promotion, I was a little bit unsure about whether I should stay in the program or not. And meeting with my TAs and talking to them, not just about my assignments, but about the program in general, really made me feel comfortable and welcome. So touch base with your TAs.
That's definitely super true. Also keep in mind, yeah, your TAs are just people probably going through the same classes, maybe the same trajectory as you want to do in the future. So they can give you lots of good advice, not just about the course itself, but about courses that you'll be taking maybe in later years or what you kind of want to spend your time on. So super good.
Yeah. Let's wrap up our segment for the instructors and professors, and then we are moving on to the society. We have over 200 societies where you can find lots of friends over there, find someone who has the same interest with you. So how do you guys find new friends?
Yeah, meeting friends through societies is definitely.
Well, before we get into that, let me explain a little bit about what societies are, because not everyone calls them societies. So by societies, we mean organizations and clubs at the university that you can get involved in outside of the regular class time. So things I like to get involved in are things like choir. I was involved in Global Brigades, which kind of organizes different fundraisers in order to help communities in different parts of the world. What about you? What kind of clubs do you like to get involved in, Lexi?
Well, before I get into the societies that I'm involved in, we want to know, have you guys seen any societies at Dal that you're interested in? I've seen some of you asking about sports teams. That kind of, I guess, qualifies as a society too.
Yeah.
So what kind of clubs are you guys interested in doing here, or what are you doing at home? Let us know.
Mm-hmm. Now that you know what societies are.
Yeah, so as Michelle said, we have all sorts of different societies here at Dal. I know that you, Lillian, are in some commerce-related ones.
Yeah, like if you are in commerce, you will automatically enroll in the commerce society. There are lots of case competitions and volunteering experience for you. And also, out of my faculty, I'm in French society. They hold on lots of events for you to practice your French, enjoying and learning some French culture and their food.
Someone mentioned computer programming. I think we have a programming society. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, we do. And the great part about all these societies that we're talking about is that we have this society fair expo at the start of term that you can go to, and it's usually run by all of the leaders and people coordinating the societies. They set up a little poster board, and you can go through and talk to them about what their society is about and what they like to do and what they've done in the past. And usually they'll have a little email sheet where you can sign up and find out when their next meeting's going to be or when their first meeting's going to be. So I highly encourage that you guys go to that society fair. It's usually around the first week of classes. We're trying to confirm the date right now, but you will know once we know it.
Yeah, they advertise it all over campus. You definitely can't miss it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like Michelle said, the society fair is like a great time to just kind of see what societies are about. They usually have big displays showing stuff that they've been doing over the past years, maybe their plans for the upcoming school year. And like Michelle said, leaving your email, that's super key. So pretty much what I like to do is at a society fair, even though I'm already in my third year and I'm already involved in some societies, I like to just go, put down my email and as many societies that are interesting to me as possible. And then you kind of get notice on all the events they're doing. So the cool thing with societies is that it's really up to you how involved you want to be. So say your goal is to get super involved and really, make this something that you work on outside of your school time, you can do that. If you don't really want to do that and you just kind of want to go to their events maybe once a month, that's also fine as well. So it's super flexible.
And also make sure to check out your inbox because lots of information I can gonna send to you through your email.
Yeah. Also just building off a bit what Lillian was talking about before with the French Society. So societies are also a great way to build skills. So I'm personally involved in the Dalhousie Gazette, which is our school newspaper here. And that has been a great way for me to improve my writing. So I started writing for the Dalhousie Gazette last year, hadn't really done much article writing. And throughout the course of the year, they helped me out. They edited my writing, and now I feel much more improved. And that's definitely been something that I've worked on throughout the year. So I think that's super great.
And like you guys were saying, it's also a great place to meet friends. Even though I was from Halifax and coming into Dal, I still was kind of nervous about meeting new people because a lot of my friends went to school in Ontario, which is another province. So when I joined some societies, I was able to make those connections and hang out with both my friends during the society meetings and outside of the society meetings. So it was kind of a win-win, and now we're great friends. So.
As a food person, another of my best place to go is International Centre. We put some dinners every Monday evening. International students come and we chat, share food, and talk about things going on during the day. It's super fun.
Yeah. So talking about the International Centre is a great support for students, and now we're going to talk about some more sources of support for students specifically. So do you want to start with the DSU, Lindsay?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the DSU, or the Dalhousie Student Union, is a student organization that we have here at Dal that aims to improve the lives for students in the Dalhousie community. So they do a lot of great work around campus. Often that'll take the forms of initiatives, such as recently they had an initiative to provide free menstrual products in all of our Dalhousie bathrooms. So that was super great. And they also have space in the sub. So the sub, the student union building. If you've tuned into our previous, we had some videos, some tours around campus. You'll see the sub in those. But the sub is basically a space for students to hang out. There's study space, there's food. So it's just a great place to kind of chill and relax with your friends.
Yeah, so check out the DSU. DSU's got you, as they always say. I'm going to talk about some more supports that are related to being a successful student here at Dal. So I'll start with what's known as the Writing Center. The Writing Center is a super, super helpful resource for students who are looking to improve their writing and their grammar, or if you have an assignment and you don't understand what the question is particularly asking, the folks at the Writing Center can help you out with that, and all you have to do is schedule an appointment and you'll be able to do that. Have you guys had any good experiences with the Writing Center there?
Yeah, sure. As for me, English is my second language. And when we write papers, essays, I don't know how to cite. So I go to the writing center in Killam Library, to ask the profs to help me how to make the APA style, which is the citing style, and check out my grammar, help me with the wording.
Yeah, I would definitely say the Writing Center is great. So basically how it works is each student has like a certain number of appointments you can make throughout the year. I'm not sure what the number exactly is, but you probably will never reach that limit. It's quite a generous amount and it's free. So it's really a great resource that I really recommend everyone takes advantage of. Like me, I'm in arts. I've been writing essays for a long time. And even then, like the Writing Center is not just for people that maybe feel as though they struggle with writing. It's also a great place to kind of just go and like bounce your ideas off someone that has more knowledge and experience with writing than you. So even if you do feel very confident in your writing, it's just a great way to improve it. And it's a free resource, so might as well take advantage.
Exactly. So the next one I wanted to talk about was studying for success. If you feel like you're falling a little bit behind on your schoolwork and you're struggling to manage your time a little bit, maybe you're working a part-time job as well as doing school, no worries. The Studying for Success offers both tutors and workshops to help you succeed as a student. So some of the things that I've gotten involved in is I think I attended a couple workshops on taking tests for multiple choice exams, things like setting goals and objectives, learning how to manage my time effectively, and I found it to be really helpful. So feel free to check out the Studying for Success. Have you guys had any experience with that or heard anything?
Well, I've never been to the workshops, but I can definitely second what Michelle's saying, that oftentimes like these sound like really simple things, right? Like managing your time, multiple choice, but really there is like a lot of little tips that can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then I will wrap up with the Dow libraries. So the Dow libraries are there for much more than just taking out books. They offer a variety of services that you guys can use in order to help research for projects, in order to kind of start them as well. They help you manage that. They offer printing and copying services, so you can do that at a lower cost. And you can also use what's known as the subjects or LibGuides. And these people are specific to your program, and they can help you find specific research on different projects you're working on. So for example, the LibGuide for HAP, which is Health and Human Performance, is Shelley McKibben. And there was one project that I had to work on for a specific course on a particular topic in policy. So using Shelley, I was able to find the research I needed really quickly in order to write that paper. And it was just super helpful to have her around. Have you guys taken advantage of them?
I actually have. Have you, Lily?
I actually not, because we are like more practice and less papers.
Yeah.
We'll check it out when it comes more essays and papers.
Yeah, but like in arts, so if you're coming into like a university setting for the first time, like university research for papers is like different from what you might have been used to in high school. Like there's so much more resources. Like the reason you need an expert to help you is because there's so much available that it would take you forever to go through it and find out the best one. So it's great to have people who already are familiar with it to tell you what the most useful resources are. It's like books, they have papers. So yeah, the LibGuides are super useful for just kind of honing in, getting to the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to find a job in Canada, I would suggest you to go to the Bisset Student Success Centre. They provide support for you to write a resume, cover letter, and help with your interview preparation. And the other thing is you can go to Dalhousie. You can go to Dalhousie My Career website. You can find some campus and off-campus jobs there. And only Dalhousie students are able to get the access there. Also, if you want to participate in some extracurricular activities, you can make a record on your Dal Connect. When you apply for jobs, you can print it off with your resume. It will be help a lot in terms of finding your favorite position.
Yeah, so just what Lillian was mentioning there, it's called your CCR, so your co-curricular record. You're definitely going to hear lots about it when you get here, but basically it's just kind of like an alternative listing that's like the school approves, and it has just the things that you've been involved in the campus community.
Super helpful.
And we also have a lot of great community-based support system here. So we have Black student advising, Indigenous student advising, the Multi-Faith Center, the International Center here, LGBTQ2+ allies. So these community-based supports are really great if you think that you may face some issues that you want to speak to someone who is more experienced and maybe is from this community as well. So those resources are there for you to use. Super great.
Yeah, we want to make you feel like you belong, and you do belong. So
yeah,
those resources are great.
Yeah, so there's space here and support here for all types of students.
For sure. All right, and then we'll end with everyone's favorite kind of support that we've been talking about, especially in the group chat, the Dalplex and the Athletic Center. So we have talked about this a little bit, like I mentioned, but the Dalplex and the Athletic Center are different spaces where students can exercise and just hang out with their friends while getting some good physical activity. All you need to do is present your DALP card and then you'll get access to those. The athletic center is mainly cardio and weight machines, and there's some stretch areas. And then you also have areas like the field house and the pool where you can swim and you can play sports like badminton, or basketball team will use the courts too. So it's a really, really helpful resource for staying healthy on campus. And quick update for you guys about that question regarding whether you guys can access the Dalplex. We have determined that you guys can access the Dalplex as of Sunday, August 26th. So on Sunday, August 26th, if you present your DALP card, you'll be able to use the Athletic Center and the Dalplex. So look forward to that.
Yeah, which that's super exciting because the Dalplex is almost like a community hub, I would say. There's like always tons going on there. They have lots of classes from more casual stuff to more intensive if you're like more skilled at a sport. So is there anything that you like to do at the Dalplex, Aline?
Yeah, like I like to go swimming, and it's pretty cool during the summer. It's like humid outside. It'd be a nice place for you to relax and hang with your friend.
All right, cool. So that wraps up some of the supports we wanted to talk about specifically. But now we'd like to welcome our guest speaker and advisor from the Bisset Student Success Centre. Everybody welcome Lindsay Currie. Hi, come on in.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Yeah.
So hello, Lindsay. It's so great to have you here today. So can you just tell us a bit about you?
Sure. Well, my name is Lindsay Currie, as you said, Michelle, and I'm a student success advisor right now in the Bisset Student Success Centre. I've been at Dal now for over 10 years. I absolutely love working here, love working with students. Earlier on in my Dal career, I used to do admissions and recruitment, so I've actually traveled to a lot of your beautiful countries, and I'm really excited to meet you all and get to know more about you when you arrive on campus.
So what do you do here?
So as my role as a student success advisor, I would work with students on their goals around academics, career, and engagement at Dalhousie, and essentially help to make their Dal experience a really well-rounded and fulfilling experience. And so when I say engagement goals, I don't mean setting you up to get married. I just mean that we want to make sure it's a well-rounded experience. So university is about more than just academics, and you all talked about some of those other ways that students can get involved, and we just want to make sure that you're complementing your studies with some of those different ways to get involved. And because we know that when students get good advising, are engaged with that process, and are really engaged in the community, they really end up having a better experience and do better in university. So that's sort of what I do with students.
Excellent. So we talked a little bit about the Bisset Student Success Centre, but could you talk about just in general what the Bisset Student Success Centre is about?
I sure can. That's what I'm here for. So I actually brought a little little handout that you can pick up, students can pick up when they arrive on campus. It's we're in the process of updating this. And you mentioned course syllabi or course syllabus, and this is our advising syllabus for the Bisset Student Success Centre. So this explains what we're all about, our approach, what supports we can offer to students, and this is all on our website as well. So that's something I'd recommend students access. But essentially, we kind of take the approach of an appreciative advising approach with students. So we really want to get to know who you are as a person, what strengths you have, and what you're going to bring to your academics, to the Dow community. And we want to help you identify ways to meet your goals, essentially. And that's kind of what we're all about. So we do that through academics. So you mentioned some of those supports already. We have things like the Studying for Success program. We help students identify resources that are really going to help them succeed academically. We also do one-on-one advising with students, so we can help you do course selection. We can help identify majors and minors that you might want to pursue. We can also even look at changing programs if that's something you're interested in. If you feel like you've come to Dal and you're not in the right program, that's okay. Some of you have told me you've changed programs, right?
Yes. Yeah. If you guys have been with us for the past couple of videos, then you will know that me and Michelle both.
Yeah, and so just to know that that is okay to do. You just would want to talk to your advisor about things like that, and about what the implications might be for you. In the career realm, we do have, like you said, the drop-ins for things like resume writing, cover letter writing, interview skills. We have workshops. We have volunteer programs if you're looking to gain volunteer experience. We can even help you set up your LinkedIn account. So take a profile picture for LinkedIn and get you set up on social media for jobs and things like that. We host events. So there is going to be in September a Halifax career fair that we'll be hosting if you're looking for a job. We do a program fair typically in January each year. So if you're looking to kind of explore your options around programs at Dal, we would be able to help you with that. And then again, just identifying ways to help you meet your goals. So that's sort of what we do overall. We typically see mostly first and second year arts and science students, as well as first year engineering. So if you're in that program, we'll likely be your main contact for first year. We see students across all years for some of those other reasons I mentioned, like switching programs and things like that. And as well, the career services are open to pretty much anyone at Dow. So yeah. We're a good source of contact if you're not really sure where to start. We're a good place to start.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned either. We do have something called On Track programs, which I know you probably mentioned in some of your previous webinars too. But the main ones for you to know about right now are the Register On Track. So some of you will have gone through those to pick courses. If you haven't, there's a whole bunch of information for you on how to select courses, which you should be doing now for fall and winter for next year. And then the Start On Track, which is basically how to start off on the right foot at Dal. And there are some online modules that we would really encourage you to go through because it's just going to give you lots of information on academics, on everything from money to health to using the libraries, which you guys talked about. And if you do all of the 8 modules at the end, you might be eligible for a prize as well. Yeah. So we do a lot.
Well, that all sounds like super great work. So now getting into more of the nitty-gritties. As you mentioned, class registration is going on now. Hopefully you guys are having a look at that already. So what are your tips to organizing your class schedule?
Yes, that's a great question. I know it can be stressful when you're trying to organize your courses and figure out your classes for first year. Luckily, we have a lot of resources online. So the first thing I would suggest looking at is your first year course worksheet for your program of study and making sure that you have your required courses. So that's kind of number one. The second piece, I think, is if you do have some choice, not all programs are very flexible, but some do have choices within that, is to pick classes you're interested in because you're going to do better in those courses. Thinking about things like, are you a morning person? I am not. It's my coffee. You know, do I want to get up for that 8:30 math class, you know, every day? Thinking about the structure of your day. So do I work better when I have big chunks of time, or do I want to, you know, have about an hour space between classes? Those are things you want to think about. And sort of the final thing is just making sure you're not overloading yourself, and leaving some time for some of those other things that we have available at Dow, like societies and volunteer work and things like that. So you can think about doing a reduced course load. You know, talk to your advisor about what that might look like. And just check for conflicts in your schedule too, to make sure you don't have any overlapping courses.
Okay. So now that hopefully people have those tips in mind, what should they be looking for in terms of registering their classes now?
Yeah, so you can go online anytime to actually select your courses and register in those. If you do need some help with that, you can contact us at the Bisset Student Success Centre or your individual faculty or program advisor. So we do have a list of where to go for advising on the website. If you're not sure, that's the first place to visit. And then just to go online and add those in yourself. And there are 7 steps outlined on the website. And there's also some really great video tutorials, which I would highly recommend you watch. It takes about 12 minutes total to watch those, but it will save a lot of time in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will add that I watched the videos. They helped me a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
Particularly, I wanted to ask you about navigating the academic timetable. We've been talking about this elusive academic timetable. Some of you may have seen it already. It's very complicated. Is there also a video about navigating that?
There is. There are segments of the videos. It's a bit of a beast the first time you see it. I know it causes confusion, but once you go through it once, after first term, you'll understand then, I think, how to make those changes, how to read it. And there are some tips in the videos and on the website. There's some screenshots and things that will kind of walk you through how to read that. So it's a really great way to figure that out.
And when students ask for advice, do you give some specific faculties?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so mostly, like I mentioned, we see arts and science and engineering first-year students. We do support for course registration for first year for all programs at Dow, including the agricultural college. But if you are coming into the Truro campus, then you can also access advising through that campus. So, yeah.
All right. And so you were mentioning before about like switching majors, switching up your courses. So what should students be keeping in mind when it comes to fees or deadlines with that?
So I would suggest, even if you're not sure if you're going to actually keep all of the courses that you're registering for, or I know some people are they might be unsure if they can come in September because of visa and things like that. I would suggest doing your full course registration now, if you haven't done it already, because you can drop courses up until September 18th with no academic or financial penalties for tuition purposes. And so that's usually the best bet. There are also some opportunities through each term to drop courses. So you'll want to look at our important dates website and keep track of those dates, because that will give you an idea of what you're allowed to do and when you're allowed to make changes to courses. And there are those opportunities each term to make changes and to adjust your schedule.
Well, we also weren't sure. We wanted to touch on the co-op program a little bit. I know that you guys don't specifically do a lot of co-op advising, but could you talk about co-op a little bit?
I sure can. So it's a great option in some programs at Dow. So it's an option in science, computer science, and engineering. Mm-hmm. It's built in to some programs like Commerce Co-op, which Lillian is taking, and it's architecture is the same way, for example. And when we talk about co-op, in case you're not sure what that means, it basically just means that you're accruing work terms throughout your time in your program. So usually you're alternating academic terms and a work term, and then you end up with usually about a year's sometimes more worth of work experience, Canadian work experience before you graduate. So it can be a really great way to get some more hands-on experience in your field. And there are usually supports for getting those jobs as well. So that can be really helpful. And if you're thinking of co-op, typically it's something you would go into after first year. So you should talk to your advisor and the co-op advisor for that program about if it's something you're interested in doing.
All right, well, thank you for that. So I just wanted to ask you, what are kind of some questions that you get that maybe are kind of outside of your job description that you don't kind of advise?
Okay, that's a great question. So there are a lot of things we can help with. One of those things is not registering you for your courses. So we don't have access to your records to do that. We can view what you've registered and we can't actually put you in courses. So that's sometimes something students think we do. We also can't make decisions for you. So I know it would be nice if you've got a dilemma and you're just saying, what should I do? We won't tell you what to do. We might give you some information. We might help you navigate those difficult decisions, get you over the hump kind of thing. But it really that piece is up to you. And we can't make you come to appointments. We can't make you access some of the resources that we're recommending, but we're recommending those for a really good reason, and hopefully that will be clear. And so we hope that you will follow up with some of that advice.
So where students can find you?
Yeah, we're in the 4th floor of the Student Union building. So that's going to be a really familiar building once you arrive on campus. And if you're participating, in the international orientation, which you should be, then you'll get to know that building as well. And so the good news is you can access us through the summer by phone. We have a 1-888 number. We have an advising email, advising@dal.ca. So if that's easier for time zone purposes, if you can't call, that's a great way to reach us. And I would encourage you to reach out before you arrive on campus and before classes start for sure.
And just to clarify that a bit more, so would people be booking appointments or is it drop-in?
So we do both. We can book appointments, phone or in-person appointments, advise via email, and we also will have a drop-in schedule in September.
All right. Okay, so I think that wraps up the questions that we had for you. So now it's time for your questions. So go ahead and ask them in the chat. Hopefully Lindsay can help you guys out.
All right, and we're gonna invite our friendly moderator, Brandon Reynolds, to come in and ask us some questions.
Hi, everyone. So I'm the Projects and Program Coordinator here at the International Centre. I encourage you to stop in, say hi. My office is just off the lounge, so when you get to campus, come bug me. I'd love to see you. So yeah, are there any questions that you might have that weren't answered here today? I've got the chat open, and Kyoba is pointing out a question, and I forgot my glasses today, so can you see that?
Yeah, I can. What can students expect from drop-ins in September?
There we go.
That's a great question. So the drop-in appointment schedule, usually we have that available for peak times when students might have a quick question or they're just looking to make a small adjustment to their schedule. If they haven't booked an appointment already, they can still come for drop-in, and we may book a subsequent appointment where we might have a little bit more time to address some other concerns, but it's just really for those sort of, ideally it's for last minute questions and small adjustments, and then we would book a longer appointment if we need to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's great.
All right, we have the next question coming in. What happens in an advising appointment? What are some of the students' responsibilities in an advising situation versus the advisor's responsibilities?
Right. So
that's a great question.
A very good question. And if you haven't accessed advising before, you wouldn't know really what we're about. So what we would do is, so typically students will come and they might have a specific question, or they might say to us, I registered for my courses. I just want to make sure that I registered for the right things, that I'm on track in my program. Sometimes you might have a question around, I'm not sure if this is the right program for me. That might be a more lengthy discussion. But as I said, we use that approach, that appreciative advising approach, to really find out what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? We help sort of create plans and help you to implement those plans so that you're reaching your goals, whatever those may be. So oftentimes it's not just a single appointment. It can be an ongoing conversation through the term and through your time at Dow. So, we do expect you to come prepared with questions, to be engaged, to be open to suggestions and the resources that we're suggesting that you might access. And, we're there to help you. And again, just not to make those final decisions for you.
That's great. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, we know that the transition from high school to university, it's quite different, and the classroom is quite different. From an advisor's perspective, how can a student prepare for a Canadian sort of university setting so that they can be successful in the classroom? And what are some things that a student can do right now to start preparing?
Great question. So I think so the first thing I think I mentioned earlier was just thinking about the workload, how many courses, it's a huge transition, like you're coming to a different country, you're getting to know a whole new way of life. So that alone is a big transition. So I would suggest kind of thinking about that and your load of courses and is that manageable? The other piece from an academic perspective that students can do is to start thinking about, is there an area that I think I might need some more support in? So for example, if writing is not an area that you're strong in, maybe you want to research some of the resources around writing, or maybe your first language is not English and you know that you might need some supports around learning English as a second language. So starting to do some of that research and starting to talk to your advisor about some of those pieces even before you arrive is a great idea. Reading through all of your course syllabi, these lovely things that you get for each course, and often those are online in Brightspace. They're activated sometimes a little bit before the course starts. So reading through those, really researching what are the expectations of me in this course, and just to kind of get familiarized with those, and familiarizing yourself with all of the resources that we've talked about today, going on some of the websites, and just kind of knowing what you can access if you run into trouble. Mm-hmm.
That's great, thanks. I know you mentioned sort of some language support if English isn't your first language. And just so you folks know, here at the International Centre, we're going to be running a program this year called Language Spot. And it's a safe, inclusive space to practice speaking English. So we're going to have coaches that are trained to help you practice your English, and we're going to, frankly, just have a lot of fun. So some of the events I think are going to be like board game nights. We're going to do a pickling workshop, sushi making class. So it really will be a casual space, but a really great opportunity to practice your English.
Can I come? Because I've never done pickling.
Absolutely, yes, yes. We have a question about what's the first thing you should be doing as an international student when you arrive in Halifax. That's a really great question. I would encourage you to check out the International Centre's website, because there's lots of tips and tricks on what you can do when you're arriving. But it is really important. One of the first things you should do is come to the International Centre and check in with us. We're going to have a package available for you with information on how to set up a bank account, how to get a cell phone, social insurance number here in Canada, and any other questions you may have. We're also going to have lots of information at the Halifax airport. There's going to be something called the Welcome Desk in the last week of August, and that'll be folks from all the schools in Nova Scotia to just give some general information about arriving to Nova Scotia and Halifax. But we would encourage you to stop into the International Centre one of those first days. Can we chat maybe about grades? I know some students who maybe are doing really well in high school, what can they expect in terms of their grades in their first year of their undergrad?
So it sort of depends on what you're used to doing, in high school, and then, some people do find there's a bit of a transition into the university world because, for a lot of reasons, it's faster paced sometimes compared with what you've done in high school. And so if you get behind, it can be kind of harder to catch up in courses. So that can be an issue. If you haven't been used to doing a lot of work in high school, which has been kind of easy for you, you might find that it's a bit of a surprise how much work you have to put into your courses here. So for every hour that you spend in class at Dal, the expectation is that you'd spend 3 hours outside of class doing work. So that can come as a surprise to some people. And again, that comes down to things like managing your course load and things like that. And again, the piece about study skills is super important. So if there's a particular area that you are strong in, I would suggest accessing those studying for success workshops early on, and maybe even things like a tutor or study coach might be useful if you've got some concerns around that transition to university.
That's great. I know for me, when I was doing my undergrad, it was a bit of a shock where I'm used to being in class kind of all day and doing my work in class. And then all of a sudden, you're sort of listening or participating in a class, and then you've got all that extra work outside. So that's great tips. Thanks.
The other piece, I guess I forgot to mention, is that the other major difference is that usually, like you said, you're in class and doing your work in class, you're also in class all day sometimes in high school. Versus university, your courses are broken up into those hour or hour and a half classes 3 times a week, twice a week, and it looks like in your schedule you have all this time, all this extra space. That is for you to do that work outside of the class. And so, like, one of the biggest tips is to book that time in. So I'm going to go to the library at this time, or during this time I'm going to go to the math tutoring center. Those are the kinds of things you can actually block into your schedule to make sure that you're
and that's a great point. Is it's nice to get outside of sort of your regular routine or where you're living and go to the library, access those supports, and sort of separate where you sleep and where you study.
And also remember, if you guys have any other questions about what we spoke on earlier, so what classes are like, TAs, profs, societies, go ahead and ask those in the chat too.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question about should I register in winter courses? Yes, you would register in courses for both fall and winter the previous year. So that's definitely recommended. And you can always make changes to your schedule anytime up until the first 2 weeks into classes. So it's always better to register, and then if you have to make changes, you can do that.
We've got a question. Any advice for grad students? I'll start by saying definitely connect with your supervisor. That's something that's very important. So start that early. And that's a great question to ask your supervisor as well, because grad programs are so diverse in terms of what you'll be working on, what you might be studying. So your supervisor would have a really great detailed explanation of what you can expect. But do you have any advice for grad students?
Yeah, there are some resources on campus that grad students can also access, like the Writing Center, for example. That's a resource for grad students. I think your advice about touching base with your supervisor is great. There typically are also people in each program that's their role, is to help graduate students. So I know in my previous school, for example, Health and Human Performance, there was a person that worked with grad students. So that's another resource for you. The Faculty of Grad Studies website and department, I would suggest touching base with them just to find out more about what resources are available to you as a grad student, because they will have information about things like funding and all of those things that you're concerned with.
So how does one mark attendance in each class?
That's usually up to
Is class mandatory?
Yeah. Well, I would say yes. But it's usually up to the instructor. From your experiences, it's usually instructor discretion how they count attendance. Some will mark attendance. Some will use things like participation grades. So instead of checking to see if you're there, are you engaging in the content? Are you going on the discussion boards online and participating? And sometimes there are some requirements around that, those kinds of things. So it's typically up to the instructor.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. There's a huge difference between just attending class and being present in the classroom. And actively being present. So some recommendations that I always tell first-year students is, it's great if you can sit in the front of the class. I know it sort of it sort of sounds cheesy. You want to hide in the back, but if you sit and not the first row, you don't have to sit in the first row, although I encourage you to, but in the first few rows, and try to make a goal for yourself. Every class, ask one question or contribute in some way. And that way the professor will see that you're actively engaged, you're interested in the subject material, and you'll start building that relationship with your instructor or professor. And you'll also retain that information a lot better if you're actively engaged in the class. And we do know also that handwritten notes are better than typing on the computer because it's very easy to pull up your Facebook or your email if you're just writing down those notes by hand. A really great sort of tool to not get distracted in the classroom.
So what I find when it comes to like deciding, because yes, like as we've all mentioned, like when you get to university, going to class is your own decision. No one's going to come to your house, knocking on your door saying it's time to go to class. It's you have to decide to go and you have to make it there on your own. But what I've kind of found is in your earlier years, first year, second year, your profs are maybe much more forgiving in terms of the class schedule. It's easier, if you miss class, it's easier to kind of make up for that. Maybe they post the stuff online. But it's good to get into that habit while you're still in first and second year. That way when you get to third year, fourth year, and your profs maybe don't provide as many notes online at that point. Maybe your grade is based on one exam and one essay that you write throughout the whole year. And then at that point, it's going to be a lot harder for you to make it up if you're missing class. So it's good to be there, and that way you can listen to what the expectations are from your prof every single day.
We have a question about what are the total credit hours required for Bachelor of Commerce. So maybe you can talk about what credit hours are and what the requirements are for a bachelor's program.
Sure. So at Dalhousie, we use the term credit hours. Some other institutions might use credit unit. Those are some other terms. At Dal, it's credit hours. And so typically a 4-year undergraduate degree would be made up of 120 credit hours. So each course is usually 3 creded hours. It depends on the program and some of the courses. And sometimes labs have like a half of they have 1.5 credit hours assigned, things like that. But most undergraduate programs are 4-year, 120 credit hour degrees.
And how many credit hours would you do in 1 year then?
So typically the load is that you would do 5 courses per term or 30 credit hours in a year.
That's great. If you have questions about credit hours or into your first year or after your first year, you're unsure how many you might have, definitely make an appointment with an advisor because they can do an audit of your degree and see how far along you are. Sometimes if you're taking summer courses as well, that might put you further ahead. And some students choose to take less courses throughout the academic year. They may work or have families or just find the workload to be too much. And that's okay as well. We do see students do a degree in sometimes 4 years, but also sometimes 5 or 6 years. And that's completely fine as well. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of doing it on your own terms. So.
And also just going back to a question here about so classes and like the syllabus. So when it comes to the syllabus, how I personally like to do it is I get the syllabus. So usually it's a super helpful document. It has all the due dates for the whole year, even like your essays like near the end of the year. The due dates are already on there. So now's your chance to kind of get ahead of the game, write down all those deadlines in your calendar, and that'll kind of help you map out your times throughout the week. So maybe you have a week coming up, you're going to have tons to do, so you can start planning for that ahead of time. And it's that's a time management tool that really helps for me. How do you guys like to handle the syllabus?
First thing, the moment you get that syllabus on your Brightspace account, print it out. Print out a physical copy. I know you have a digital copy that you can just pull up anytime you need to, but a physical copy of it is really helpful, especially during the first kind of week, because then when the prof talks about the syllabus and talks about like any minor adjustments or any details that aren't on the syllabus, then you can take note of those and include that. So whenever you need to refer to it, then you have that printed copy. It's also important to note that your profs can update that syllabus anytime. So make sure that you're constantly looking at an updated version of the syllabus, usually on Brightspace, to get the most updated information.
Yeah, as for me, I personally print out all the syllabus and stick it on my wall. Like the most recently, I would highlight it and remind me every day when sitting in front of my desk. Also, your professor might send some announcement, so please make sure to check out your bright space. Things may change.
Yes. So do we want to talk a bit about bright space?
We do have a quick question. Is it possible to do a degree in 3 years? So that 120 credit hours in 3 years with a combination of summer courses. Is that possible?
So yeah, it depends on the program and how flexible it is. Some I would say no, like a nursing 4-year degree, that wouldn't be a possibility. But with some of the arts and science programs, you could theoretically do that. We also do have an option to do 90 credit hour degrees in arts and science with minors, not majors. So if that's something you wanted to explore, you could definitely come and talk to us about those options. Or if you wanted to map out, and what I would call an accelerated course plan, we could look at that as well. But we want to also make sure, again, like your experience is well-rounded. So you want to be thinking about, okay, it's not just about getting everything done. It's about how am I going to come out of this with a fulfilling experience as well, and really help to prep me for my long-term career goals.
Absolutely. And we know that employers are also looking at what you've been involved in outside of the classroom, as well as your experience in the classroom. So ensuring that you take that time to be involved in the clubs and societies that was discussed earlier, and some of the opportunities available on campus. And in the Halifax area, there's so much going on in town. There's a multicultural festival that I'll be going to this afternoon. And I live in the north end of Halifax, and there's a Gottingen street party happening just outside my apartment building. So always lots happening. So you do want to enjoy your time here in Halifax as well, if it's just for your degree or you plan to stay. So.
I would definitely agree with that. So I know that it might sound, if you're used to like the high school like clubs and you're hearing societies now, like it may sound like a very like casual thing, but really you can get a lot done with societies. If you want to like really dedicate to yourself to a cause, to making the campus a better space, you can really do that. And that might honestly take the amount of time that it would take for like a course. So maybe you want to take 4 courses and really dedicate yourself to something you've been working on through a society. Like it is worth it, and it's much more fulfilling. Yeah, do you guys have any experience with?
Well, with Global Brigades, I had the opportunity to actually volunteer abroad during the summer. So it was something that I was really passionate about. I typically take about 4 courses a semester, reduced course load. So I was able to work on my schoolwork and have time for that society. So I highly encourage for you guys to get involved in things like that.
That's great. So we're going to wrap that up here with some really great questions. Before we do the draw, before I take off, I'm wondering if each of you could give your #1 study tip for success. So whoever's ready, all 4 of you, whoever's ready, you can go first. And I already gave mine. Mine is sitting at the front of the class, asking a question or contributing every class and doing handwritten notes. So you can't steal mine.
I'll go first. I'm a very kind of audio visual learner. So take advantage of any of the videos or kind of audio tips, recordings that are posted on your Brightspace account for your course, because that's going to be really helpful. I also like to color code my notes. So if I take shorthand notes in class and they're kind of messy, hard to read, then I'll redo them in color for different things, and I'll do diagrams. It's great.
Like I would suggest to review and do more practice on your homework, because sometimes when it comes to the end of the semester, you may forget about something. And also, please go to class. All the most important materials teacher will give you is during classes. And some teacher might not give you a presentation or PowerPoint, so you have to go to class, write it down, and discuss with your classmates.
Yes. Okay. So my #1 study tip would be when you're looking at the assignments that you've got coming up, start with the one that you are most dreading to do. Like I find that helps. You just start with the one you're most dreading. You get it over with. Chances are it's going to be way easier than you thought it was. So that's my tip.
Really good advice. And I have to say this because this is what I do. See your advisor. I have to say that And so I would say see your advisor at least once a term, more if you need to. And the biggest thing is just to be proactive. If you find yourself struggling, you're in trouble, even if it's not related to academics necessarily, we can help. So I would just encourage you to come early, come often if you need to.
Yeah.
If it's the end of the term and you've already failed the course, there's nothing we can do to help you with that. So we want to know how things are going and how you're doing.
Yeah, that's some great advice. And it's never too early to stop in and see an advisor. Even if you don't think you have any concerns, questions, they'll ask some really great questions that gets you starting to think about your academic future at Dal. So that's some really great advice. So thanks everyone. That was some really great questions. We're going to wrap this up, and I think you have a prize. Don't you? Yes.
We're going to be giving away, I believe it's a tiger and one of our lovely Dal t-shirts. You can grab me that t-shirt here.
Yes, he has a little Dalhousie
Thanks,
shirt.
everyone.
You can be matching with your tiger. Oh, this is the look right here.
It is the look. So we'll be giving away a prize per question, I believe. And so the first question is, where is the Bisset Student Success Centre? Let us know in the chat. Yeah, exactly. I believe that
It is not.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, fourth floor. Good job.
You were listening.
Yes. All right, so that's the first question. The second one is, which website can you use to find jobs on campus?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one, but we did talk about it.
All right, come on, guys. Let me dig into the memory bank.
Be a little bit specific here.
But that's easy to Google too.
Yeah, it is.
So finding on-campus jobs.
So we're talking about employment a little bit earlier.
It's like a database only available to Dal students.
Everybody's Googling. Everyone's Googling.
Do you want to give a hint?
Yeah, I guess. It was posted in the chat earlier.
Oh, well, now I'm just disappointed in you guys.
We were talking about different supports, like we were talking about some reviewing resumes and cover letters. We were talking about Dal Connects.
And it's in the chat, so
Scroll up.
Although there are many resources posted.
yeah, that's true.
All right, we'll skip that one, and we're gonna award it at orientation. But thanks for playing,
Okay,
guys.
and let's just, so where to find campus jobs. It's called My Careers. That's where all the jobs on campus are posted. Dal students have access to it. My Careers.
And then there's the Halifax Career Fair in September too.
Exactly, yes. Stay tuned for that. As we're talking about orientation here, we will remind you that international orientation is from August 27th to August 31st. So you can register for that now. So we highly encourage you guys to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be on a panel, I believe. So you'll see us there, and you'll see Brennan there. And
You get to meet all your idols in person.
yeah, in person in the flesh. So we want to thank you guys so much for tuning into this stream as well as our other streams. It's been really fun to just chat with you guys about different things about Dal and just in general. So thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, so this is our last stream, but we will be posting more like helpful videos, like tips and tricks in the next 2 weeks. So keep your eye out for that.
Okay, we ended.
Yeah.
Oh, 68 playbacks.